The Ibrox channel.
Good afternoon, listeners to the Rangers Journal. This is Andrew, and this is the Ibrox channel podcast. So yes, the Rangers Journal is the home of the Ibrox channel podcast, and this is your weekly audio-only podcast. So good few things to talk about today. So I have asked for some listener questions, so we will go through a couple of those after we talk about the game at Dens, and we will be talking about Rebecca. So Rebecca Octoloni, she is doing the big Ibrox Sleepout 2025. We're going to be talking about that as well towards the end of the show, so do listen out for that as well, and I'll give you all the information on how to donate as well. So before we get started, the Rangers Journal is sponsored by Bluebells Bar, Puerto del Carmen, Lanzarote, the only Rangers bar in Puerto del Carmen. Family friendly, you can eat, drink, chill or party, and of course they do show every Rangers game live. So Rangers games are just that little bit better when you've got some beaming hot sunshine. So yeah, do head down there if you are in Lanzarote, which is definitely a popular destination, and I'm sure one or two of you have frequented there at some point. So yeah, do head down if you're in that neck of the woods. So let's get to it. So a fantastic win for Rangers there at the weekend on Sunday, when Rangers went up to Dens Park, a team that we really struggled against at Ibrox earlier in the season under Russell Martin's reign. However, we came out 3-0 winners, and what a win it was as well. Now, it was really good to start a first half of football really promisingly and strongly. Kind of didn't really know what to expect going into that game. Obviously, Celtic went up there and came a cropper just a couple of weeks ago, which signalled the end of the Brendan Rodgers era Mark II. And yeah, Dundee have been a little bit of a thorn in the side of the old firm this year. Now, obviously, they're not doing amazingly in the league. They got absolutely scudded off Hearts just a couple of weeks ago. So there were frailties there, but they always seem to raise their game against us. And in the first couple of minutes, obviously, they got a free kick in a dangerous area. Jack Butland pulled off a fantastic save from Ethan Hamilton. I say fantastic save. It kind of was. I don't want to say it was towards the centre of the goal. It was just a little bit to the side, but still, it's one of those that can catch a keeper out, and Butland matched it. Again, it was a free kick due to Diamandi fouling during the break, something that Diamandi's kind of got to get out of his game a little bit, especially in that dangerous area. But you thought from then it looked like, okay, Dundee are up for this. We are going to struggle. They did move the ball around well. The one difference I did notice in them early embers, though, when we were out of possession, we were fighting to try and get the ball back. Yes, it wasn't sticking, but we were all over them like bees around honey. It really was a big difference to what we've seen in recent weeks. 8 minutes in, though, we get our first corner kick, and I'm not a big fan of outswingers, but James Tavernier on the outswinger, and he put it on the head of Nico Raskin, and it was a great header. He was on mark, so Dundee can look at that and actually think they could have defended that a little better, but you know what, we'll take it. We've scored from a corner, something we've not done too badly with this year, and it was a great way to take the lead 8 minutes in. That's what you want to be seeing from a Rangers side. So an absolutely fantastic way to go ahead. Majowski was a bit quiet in the game, but 30 minutes in, he had a nice little back heel on the counter. We ended up getting the corner kick from that. It was a nice little bit of link-up play, but then after that, Majowski just dropped out the game completely. There was a ball into the box. Danilo got headed down, but the keeper gathered quite easily. I think Danilo was trying to flick it on to somebody else. But one thing I have to say, a big shout out to Cornelius. He was just concrete at the back. There was a couple of times when players were breaking forward for Dundee, and Suter would go and try and win the ball. He would kind of get caught, sucked in a little bit, but Cornelius was there to be the brick wall, read the game well, knows when to stick his foot in, and really stood up very well against a couple of Dundee's breaks. Dundee didn't have too many breaks in that first half, and it was a good day for Jack Butland to be wearing white, that's for sure, because I don't think he really got any mud on him at all. But yeah, there was, as the half went on, we were looking for that second goal, weren't we? And we did get an absolutely fantastic second goal. It has to be said. And it was strange territory in some respects because we're just not really used to seeing Rangers take an early lead. 14 minutes in, of course, Mikey Moore just being very direct, runs at the defence, sees a little gap, goes for the shot, and just curls it into the bottom corner. And that's something we just don't see. Nice direct play. It just reminds me of when we went to Rugby Park and we had to win the league, and we were 3-0 up about 15 minutes in. And it felt a little bit like that. One of Lafferty's goals, it felt like. It was an absolutely fantastic finish from Mikey Moore, who is really grown into being a Rangers player at the minute. The leash is off a little bit, which is just such a relief, because we could all see that there's talent there. We've all seen how he played in the Europa League for Spurs. Spurs is youngest, I think, homegrown European scorer, which is just fantastic. And it was a great goal from him. And that was 14 minutes in, so almost had the game a little bit done and dusted then, almost. Now, don't get me wrong, 2-0 isn't always the best scoreline. You do want to have 2 rather than 1, but we all know what can happen when you concede 1. Suddenly the momentum shifts to the other team. We were unlucky just before half-time with the goal that wasn't. Obviously, it's very rare to see VAR step in for an offside, but due to the subjective nature of the offside, they couldn't really make their mind up in the VAR room at Clydesdale House. So they let the referee have the final decision. Now, obviously, the offside was given for when the shot came in, I think from Danilo. Diomande was in an offside position. Doesn't touch the ball, but there is an argument that he's blocking the keeper's view. Now, when the ball is hit, he's not blocking the keeper's view, but then you can argue that it's gone through him, so he doesn't know the keeper might be unsteady for a second or two. You can argue he's interfering with play, but it wasn't clear cut and it wasn't black and white there. That's why it ended up being quite a subjective call. And it's very rare to take the referee to the monitor to have the final say on it. You can argue that the keeper wasn't, the keeper's line of sight wasn't blocked because he saved the shot, which the rebound was then scored by Moore, which actually was a great finish from the angle. But at the same time, you can argue maybe the keeper could have gripped the ball better and kept it in his clutches, which I think is a little doubtful considering where the ball was. He was kind of at full stretch for it. So, but again, it's if, what's, buts and maybes. That is why it's a subjective call. To be honest, it was probably handled the correct way. Now, some might argue, actually, they should have just then, if they couldn't make their mind up, they should have stuck with the referee's original call. Yeah, okay, that would kind of make sense. You kind of don't need to overrule it then, but actually they're not overruling it. They're letting the referee himself have a second look and let him have the final say, which, you know what, is probably the correct way of going about things. Let's be honest here. Now, obviously there was an alleged handball, as Sky Sports was saying, in that Stramash in the box, but it does appear to clip. I can't remember who it actually clipped, but it might have been Graham. I can't quite remember, but the ball kind of came, I think, off the chest onto the arm. Either way, the arm's down by his side from the shot. I don't think it'd be really harsh to see that given, but you know what? With the handball rule these days, I don't think anybody really knows what handball is anymore. It changes every year, and it's you have to take a step back sometimes, but have to say I think Matthew McDermott had a fairly decent game, even with that kind of VAR breakdown. I think obviously Kevin Clancy was on VAR with Ross McLeod, Scott Robert Anderson, who was the assistant ref there, and the assistant VAR official Duncan Nicholson. I think they probably went with all that correctly. So you have to give praise when you can, because we are very good to criticise officials, and rightly so. We've had some absolutely terrible calls, and I'm not going to go into the last week's insanity, but there have been some terrible terrible calls recently. Obviously, we've seen now the is it the KMI panel who have ruled in favour that Rangers were quite hard done by in that Old Firm game. Yeah, it's not really a shock, is it? Now, don't get me wrong. The panel is made up of, I think, ex-professionals, and I think it's a panel of 100 people, and I think 3 get randomly selected. So there can be some, interpretation. There can be some things like, are they? I'd imagine they are fully up to date with the rules, because I think you'd have to be when you are partaking in something like that. Yeah, it's the club have released a statement again last night on the Monday saying that they are going to seek further clarification from the SFA after that KMI panel ruled in favour that Rangers should have had, Celtic should have had a red card for Trusty for dangerous play, and there should have been the yellow cards for Scales on the penalty incident, I believe. But, it's, again, the statement was never strong in the first place. This just feels like we are... I don't want to say it feels like we're looking at we're doing something, but that's what it kind of feels like, which is quite sad, really, because there is another team at the other end of the city that does make sure that they put pressure on, and they do. We've seen it from AGMs from them, and yeah, it's. I just hope we really do hit this home and really take the league to account. I did like the Fan Advisory Board statement the week before. I just hope that I was so disappointed when the club statement came out, because it just wasn't great, and it just really didn't read well. It just felt like a carbon copy of the statement they released a year before. Yeah, it was frustrating. It really was. But yeah, they're going to clarify answers. I'm sure we'll hear something this week at some point when they do their VAR show. But yeah, there we go. Obviously, some other news that has... Well, we'll go back to the game first. So with the game, obviously 2-0 at half time. That was good. That's a better position we've been in for a long time, and that has to be said. A pity it couldn't have been 3, but hey, it was interesting though. Danny Röhl, obviously somebody that's not afraid to make changes in a game. He went for 3 substitutes at half time. Now, normally you would do that if things aren't going well and you are looking to change the game completely, but you know what? On the flip side of that, you're already 2-0 up. You're probably, unless you have a dramatic crash, you're not going to lose that. So get some fresh legs on and help some players like Asgard, like Chumiti, like Connor Barron. Not that Connor Barron really needs it at the minute, but he can help some of the other players that are really struggling to break into the team and be nailed on starters every week. Of course, it was a disappointing first half for Danilo, as it was, and Miovski was almost non-existent, bar that nice little flick he had in that first half. But then that second half, you could see though that them substitutes, they weren't making an impact. It was a really sluggish second half, and there was a period of, I think, around 10 minutes where it looked like, I think Dundee had around 70% possession, which is insane. Even though it was just a 10-minute period, it showed that things weren't really working for us. Yeah, so it was good in the end, though. Obviously, we got a fantastic finish from the guy that looked like he was coming off. Gassama, obviously, it looked like we were going to be bringing on Lyle Cameron, which it would have been a good game for him to come on against his former team. He would have had a point to prove. But yeah, he was kept on, Gassama. And he scored a fantastic goal. It was a bit of a trademark goal from Gassama. He likes to cut in and get a shot away. Hopefully we can see more of that, like when he did start with Rangers. It was really good to see. He really hit the ground running, then just fell off a cliff completely. And you have to be honest, if Gassama wasn't hitting that form he was at the start of the season, I don't think we'd barely even be in Europe, to be honest. Because, yeah, we really did struggle through... We would have struggled through those qualifiers without him, definitely. Sadly as well, Oliver Antman, we didn't see too much from him when he came on, and obviously Deidre came on for the last kind of 8 minutes or so for Cornelius, who did look like he took a bit of a knock in that match, but hopefully he's okay. And that was that. It was nice to end before the international break with a nice 3-0 away win, clean sheet, and you can see that Danny Röhl's given us a nice foundation now to build on. He started with getting some of the basics sorted. The formation was worked quite well. That I don't know if you want to call it a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-2, but you kind of have, obviously it was Tavernier, Suter, Cornelius, Megoma at the back. You had Raskin and Diamande in that kind of double pivot, and then in front of them you had Gassama, Danilo and Moore. Danilo obviously in behind Miovski, who was the man up top. I think it needs to work a little bit better. I think two strikers does need to be the way forward, I think. I just think that is the way forward. But yeah, no, it was a nice win, and it was nice to do so. Nice to claw some points back on Hearts. Hearts, obviously, who dropped points again at the weekend. Obviously, look at it. The table is... Hearts are still top. They're on 30 points. We're on 18 currently, so obviously they're 12 points ahead. We do have a game in hand, though, and hopefully we can climb up that table and hopefully close the gap on Celtic as well. Celtic, who have not been their usual selves in recent weeks, have seemed to have found a bit of momentum under Martin O'Neill. And there just seems to be a little bit of a difference there. Now that Rodgers is gone, it seems there that they... Weirdly, and it's weird to say, it seems like Martin O'Neill's been a little bit of a breath of fresh air. Now, I don't think it's necessarily Martin O'Neill. I think it's the guys in the backroom team that are there on the interim basis as well that have helped. But you can't deny that with these fringe players, and they have a lot of players injured at the minute, but with these fringe players, they are winning games very well. Who was it they played at the weekend? Was it Kilmarnock? They had a 4-0 win there. At Parkhead, and you think to yourself, Kilmarnock teams of previous years might have been able to get something there, but teams are getting steamrolled by them at the minute. So even with their injury crisis, they know how to win, because you have to say it's in their DNA. They just know how to do it, and they do know how to do it. This is something that we've got to learn to do, and so far things are starting. We are turning a corner, and you have to say that. But, it still doesn't make for good reading. We've played 11 matches. We've only won 4 of those 11 matches. We've drawn 6, lost 1, which, we got to be honest, that lost to Hearts. We shouldn't have lost that. It was quite shocking how we lost to Hearts. But, that was another apology. But our goal difference at the minute is +5, which... Yeah, that doesn't make for good reading. Conceding 10 goals and only scoring 15 goals for. Hearts have scored nearly double the amount of goals that we have. They've conceded the same amount of goals that we have, but they've only, it's just quite incredible, really. But yeah, there we go. So we sit 4th currently on 18 points. Now, obviously, it's the international break this weekend, so... no football for us, and no weekend to potentially get ruined. But I appeared on the 4th official yesterday on Monday. I spoke with Gaz about the weekend's game, so you can head to the 4th official on Patreon, and you'll be able to hear that pod. I've not been on the Rangers Journal this week due to work commitments. I'm a bit all over the place this week, so my schedule doesn't really coincide. But there was a great pod from the Rangers Journal last night. It's available on YouTube. The guys gave Danny Röhl his first report card heading into the international break. So obviously he's got 3 wins and 2 losses. So they had a special guest on the pod last night, which was Derek Clark from the Rangers Review. So it was good for Derek to join the guys and talk about Rangers and Röhl's report card so far. And it's all been fairly positive for the guys. And they had some good stats, which they had up on screen as well. So do give that a look. Billy was in the hosting seat with Ryan and Ross as well. So yeah, do look out for that. Also, before we get on to a couple of questions, this weekend the Rangers Journal's very own Rebecca Octoloni. Now, if you don't know Rebecca, she is, if you head to TikTok, you will see lots of likes and retweets. Is it retweets on there? I don't know. But Rebecca, she's very good at tinkling the ivories, and she's made some fantastic Rangers songs. She's done a lot of parties down at Edmondson House, where she's been doing some of her trademark singing, and she's got some fantastic songs on TikTok that she puts together. So she's well loved within the Rangers community, and she's doing her bit for the big Ibrox Sleepout 2025 this weekend. So her story is she's ready to spend the night sleeping out at Ibrox Stadium while raising vital funds for the Rangers Charity Foundation, Glasgow City Mission and the Simon Community. Half the funds raised will benefit the work of Glasgow City Mission and Simon Community Scotland, with the other half of the profits supporting the Rangers Charity Foundation's life-changing work in the community. The Rangers Charity Foundation exists to be a force for good on behalf of the Rangers family, showing compassion to those in need, tackling inequalities and creating opportunities for people of all ages to change their lives for the better. Thank you for your support. So if you head to the Rangers Charity Foundation website, you'll be able to see the donation page for the big Ibrox Sleepout, and you'll see Rebecca Octoloni on there. And if you want a direct link, I'm tweeting it out now on Twitter. Head to the Ibrox channel, which is at the Ibrox channel. That's at the Ibrox channel, and you'll have the link there. And well done to Rebecca. She's been battling germs this week as well, and she's doing her all to make sure that she can be there and support those charities. So well done, Rebecca. That's an absolutely fantastic thing that you are doing. Right. I did ask for a couple of questions in the week to talk about, and we've got some questions there. I was just looking through there. Some people have not been asking some serious questions. I'm going to ignore that one from Mitch Clothier. So yeah, no Big Mitch. We're not doing that one. So Mitch has asked another question. What do people think have been the biggest positive changes under role, style, manner of the manager, conduct, communications, etc.? So the biggest positive changes on the role, I just think it's, like I mentioned earlier, it's that foundation. So at the minute, obviously, role hasn't managed to completely revitalise us, probably to the level that he wants at the minute. It is early days. He's not really had that much time with the squad, but the big thing is he's got wins, and we've got some clean sheets in there as well. We had a good clean sheet away at Easter Road, got a clean sheet now at Dens, and it's 3 league wins on the bounce, which is something almost unheard of this season, which is mad for a Rangers team. I think the biggest improvement has been formation with the personnel, I think, and you can see that he's brought things back to basics a little bit. He's simplified things. You could see under Russell Martin that the team, the players, they weren't really fully understanding what they were supposed to be doing. You could see Martin shouting at the players all the time. This whole hold the ball, retain the ball, and if the move breaks down slightly and you win possession back, send it back to the centre-back. A lot of this unnecessary stuff. People just getting really bogged down in this kind of turgid football, which ended up meaning that teams were happy to come on to us. And you've got to look at the rest of the SPFL, where, you know, you've got teams towards the bottom of the league that were coming on to us and playing attacking football and dominating because of that style of play. So Danny Rose identified that straight away and changed the shape, changed the way that we're playing, and has simplified that. There's still work to be done. We still need to be scoring more goals. We still need to be creating more chances, but you can see there's been a big shift. And there really has been a big shift, and that's been the biggest positive change under Röhl. And I think as well his relationship with the fans has been really good from day one. The fans have really bought into him, and that really helps. He's got a bit of credit in the bank for that, and he really has. But yeah, so that's what I'd say the biggest change is at the minute for him. So yeah, no, I would definitely say that. One from Stephen that's come in. Hope you're doing well, Stephen. Should James Tavernier be offered a new contract? See, that is an interesting one, because I think if you were to have asked that question a year ago, I think it would be completely different to now. is, yeah, do you know what? James Tavernier has been our best player this season. You can't deny that. And I will go into a little bit about James Tavernier. So, yes, I'm a bit of a James Tavernier fanboy, but I also recognise James Tavernier's limitations. So, this year, for example, he's our top goal scorer for a start as a right back, which is insane, really, and it really is. Especially where you look at the money we've spent on our strike force. So James Tavernier's bailing us out once again, like a captain, and like a captain should do. Should he be offered a new contract? Yes, I think so. And some things that people do forget with James Tavernier. Now, last year, at the start of last year, we had the Copeland stand debacle. We had, started the season at Hampden. Things weren't really going too well. We hadn't really invested in the squads, and James Tavernier was playing poorly. Now, James Tavernier was playing poorly because he was injured, and he was injured. He didn't have the proper pre-season that he normally would. James Tavernier, people forget this, but Tavernier battles through a lot of injuries. He doesn't, when he has a knock or anything, he doesn't just take himself out, get himself, have himself on the medical bench, on the sidelines. He wants to play all the time, and he is. And he plays through a lot of the pain barrier with some things sometimes. This is what people forget. Last year, he probably should have took a bit of time out at the start of the season, got himself, up to, I guess you'd say, match fitness, match standard, before really committing himself into the team. But he couldn't. There was nobody to really turn to, and he had to. Now, he got a lot of stick last year for the way he was playing, but he was injured. We have to remember that. He was injured. We are seeing James Tavernier now as the James Tavernier. Yes, he might have lost a couple of yards, but he is a vital player for us, and he'll still be a vital player next year. I think he's definitely got one more season left in him, and he really has. James Tavernier could have easily gone down to an English Championship club somewhere and had an easy life for the last few years, in the last couple of years, especially with all the kind of, a lot of the talk around him and a lot of the... Because he does get a bit of abuse, and he does. And don't get me wrong, we all say, oh, FFS Tav, when he loses his man for a goal, but that's something he's kind of always done, and we do focus on that. And I've got to say, you have to. When somebody loses their man or gives a goal away in a game where you've now just dropped points because of it, you do look at that individual error and blame that person. But James Tavernier scores more and creates more than he concedes directly himself. And that does have to be remembered. Doug had the stats for that in a pod a few weeks ago. And it is eye-opening, because it's easy how it is to label someone when actually you break down the stats and it's not as bad as it looks. Yes, he's got defensive frailties, and he does, but he's still one of our best attacking players, and I'd welcome another year extension. I really would. I think it would be the wise thing. I really do. But, yeah. So I've got another question from Ryan. I'm just finding it here in my notes. I should really collate these notes a little bit better, shouldn't I? But there we go. So Ryan, he's asked, I hope you're doing well, by the way, Ryan. Should we keep Chamiti or loan him out? So I'm sure he's referencing the January transfer window. I don't think we're loaning him out anytime soon. I think it all really hinges on if we bring anyone in January, in an attacking sense. It's an interesting one. If we do bring somebody in attacking and he would likely feature on the bench more, then I think he would be loaned out, because you can't have an £8 million asset not playing football. He needs to be playing football and played into some sort of fitness. There's a few people in the past that have said this boy will go on to big things. We need to start seeing that, and he needs to be playing a lot more. Now, we can't necessarily afford to be playing him every week and him not scoring at the minute, just because of the whole, we need goals, and we can't afford really to have somebody on the park that's not scoring. Now, don't get me wrong, you look at Chimiti's off the ball stuff. He's very good off the ball, quite good at holding up play. He's laid off a few good passes, but it's still not enough for a Rangers striker and a main Rangers striker. If you look at a number 9, it isn't enough. He's got 1 goal so far, which, we've got to be honest, the Kilmarnock keeper Beach, he didn't really cover himself in glory there with that one. It was kind of at him. He hit it well. He did hit it well, Chimiti. He controlled the ball well and hit it well. But he hasn't really built from that. We saw against Roma, he did have a bit of an unlucky chance from a tight angle. Defender put him off a little bit, and it was shanked wide. But then there was a couple after that where you're like, oh, you've got to get that on target. You have to get that on target. And of course, the Old Firm game, them 2 chances he had in that first half are only 2 chances as a team. And that was terrible. And it really was. So, yeah, it's a bit of a difficult question to answer. If he's got 7 or 8 goals by January, then we probably don't loan him out. I think we keep a hold of him. But at the same time, if we bring in a fairly decent attacker who hits the ground running, then I think we possibly could, because you can't have an £8 million asset playing second fiddle, and you really can't. You just can't be doing that. You can't. I know we've not done well in recent times, but with certain decisions. But yeah, I think that probably would be a wise decision. Now, there was I did come across a tweet last night. I think it was from Ibrox Chat, which was a segment about Andrew Kavanagh talking, and he actively encourages people to recommend people for vacant positions at Ibrox. Now, I won't go into the kind of whole thing verbatim, but it seems that, because obviously there was an article that came out last night from the Scottish Daily Express, which says we are linked with former Manchester United and Everton people for jobs at Ibrox, which hasn't come across as a big shock, because they seem to be the clubs that we seem to be getting people from. But the optics aren't very good, and once again the optics aren't very good. Andrew Kavanagh really needs to now just take a look at this whole situation and go, right, this isn't a good look. This really is angering the fans further. You've seen all the banners about Thelwell and Patrick Stewart. They're not wanted as it is, and if they're going to bring in further pals from clubs that they've worked at, then it's just not a good look, and it isn't a good look. Now, don't get me wrong, you can work with certain people and you can go, you know what, I think that person's very good. This is what they've done. They've done X, Y, and Z while at the club at that time. I think they'd be good for the job. It doesn't mean that you don't interview other people as well. Andrew Kavanagh said in that quote that, I'd rather somebody recommend somebody to me rather than, spend 45 minutes interviewing someone. I'm sorry, you should be looking for the best for that position. And you should be looking for the best for that position. Doesn't matter if you have to interview several people. That's what you should be doing. You shouldn't be going down the old Pals Act route. Just because somebody worked with somebody and has a good relationship with them doesn't mean that they're the best for the club. So, I noticed though that the Scottish Daily Express did delete that article, that tweet last night, not long after they put it out. So maybe the source of the information maybe wasn't accurate. So who knows? But it wouldn't surprise me if we see more people from Manchester United and Everton in some other positions at the club, which, it wouldn't be a good look. And it really wouldn't be a good look if it is. And we have to look at the optics of that situation. And just before we go, a little bit of gossip. According to Team Talk, 2 unnamed Italian clubs are looking to approach Rangers for Nicholas Raskin. Ibrox sources, take that as you will, are indicating a bid of 18 to 20 million could force their hands. Now, if that is true and we're offered between 18 and 20 million, you take it. You really do. I think that with what's been invested in the squad so far this year, it's been a lot. and especially when you look at PSR and things like that, we do need to invest further in the squad to kind of make up for some of the mistakes that have happened. So, yeah, price-wise, would it be 18 to 20 million? I don't know. But if you were to get that, 18 to 20 million, I think you've got to take it, haven't you? Especially with what's he got left on his deal? Was it 18 months he's got left? So, yeah. Yeah, you got to take that, haven't you? But there we go. So I'm sure we'll start hearing rumours as we get towards December. But that's the kind of latest on Nico Raskin. So, guys, thank you ever so much for listening to the Ibrox channel. The Rangers Journal is the home of the Ibrox channel podcast. The Rangers Journal have been live quite a few times this week, and even though it is the international break, they will still be bringing you some great stuff. Unfortunately, I'm not down for any pods this week with the Rangers Journal because due to work commitments, I can't do it this week, but I will be back on the network next week, so do look out for that. But you'll be in safe hands with the other guys, and there'll be some great stuff there. So every night is a Rangers Journal night. Take care, everyone, and on the Rangers. See you later.
The Ibrox channel.